Nice to see you, and it's a real privilege to be here this morning. My name's Ami Schefe. If I haven't met you or don't know you, my nana, also known as Dorothy Lefley, is here. My mum's also here this morning. So that is how mainly I know you guys from years and years ago as well. It's interesting to come back. Obviously, I've been back over the years to visit, and I often just, it's like a flood of memories. I mean, I did kids club here. I caught the bus from school every Friday afternoon and rolled down the hill out the back. I remember sitting here on the stairs with Bruce Warren repeating memory verses, coming through a maze made out of hay bales one year for VBS. It's incredible, and I know a lot of you who are here today were involved in those things over the years. So it is a real privilege and honour for me to be standing here today, not as a 10-year-old VBS participant, but as a much older woman, and to share with you what I am doing with my life at the moment, where God's called me, how He has called me out of Boonah to Bolivia. Also, if I can just take a moment, as a lot of you know, I returned to Australia under difficult family circumstances, and I just want to say thank you to you as a church for just coming around, my family, for opening up your hall here for us for my brother's memorial, and just the support and the overwhelming love that we have felt from this community and family. So thank you so much for that from the bottom of my heart to you as a church, and Pastor Gray, having not met me, trusting me to come and take his place at the pulpit this morning. I'll just get Mark to flick through to the next slide for me. So as I said, I have been called to work in Bolivia. And Bolivia is a town in, Bolivia is a country. I live in a town called Riberalta in Bolivia. Bolivia is in South America. You can see on the map there, just in the centre of South America. And that map of actually Bolivia, hopefully that you can see, it's not too small. The little star up in the top right hand corner there is my town Riberalta. It's a small-ish, it's a city as well, 100,000 people, including the communities that are outside of the town. We're a little bit underdeveloped. If we go to the next slide, I'll show you some photos of us coming from the plane into Riberalta. We're up there tucked in the Amazon jungle, in the Amazon basin, very close to the equator, living in a tropical climate. I can tell you I've been freezing here the last few weeks. I didn't bring a jumper because I forgot that we were coming into winter, and it actually gets cold here. So I've been living in this tropical climate for 4.5 years. Can never wear my hair out like I am today because it's just too hot and humid. So I am enjoying it. It's one of the major differences I've noticed, especially climate-wise, but also you can see in that photo there, my city is made up of the red dirt and paved streets, very underdeveloped. The houses are more like shacks with dirt or concrete floors and the tin roofing. We have air conditioning in about 2 shops in town, so we all flock to the pharmacy when it gets really hot. That's where I'm living at the moment. I arrived in Riberalta 4.5 years ago, so I've been living there full-time for 4.5 years, and I never considered that I would be a missionary, that I would be living overseas, that I would be speaking another language. It just, I was going to be a financial planner, working from home, have my family, and go on like that, but God had different plans. If we flick to the next slide, this is a photo taken in my first year, and so the reason why I went to Bolivia, I had connection through a mutual friend of some friends in Brisbane, and he started close to 15 years ago a children's home in my same town. And he had between 20 and 25 children at different times. And so I began sponsoring a child and supporting him, the home financially. And then in 2016, I was working in Brisbane as a teacher aide, and I had Christmas holidays, and I thought I just want to go and visit my sponsor child, and I haven't been travelling for a while, so let's go to Bolivia. So I went to Bolivia at Christmas time and visited these kids, visited the girl that I had been sponsoring, and fell in love with them and everything about life there in the jungle, and was just like overwhelmed by like I could do so much here. I could really help, and so I came home after my holiday, but I thought, oh, everyone gets emotional when you experience something like that. I thought, let's just let the emotion and excitement wear off. But for me, it never did. And so I knew that God was calling me to go back. I didn't know exactly what that would look like. But in October 2018, about a year and a half later, after I'd spoken to the director of the orphanage, I had said to him, if you can use me, I will come back. And he said, that would be great. And so I came back, I went back with the commitment for 12 months. I said, okay, I'll give you 12 months and I'll help you with whatever you want. So I arrived in October 2018 and with the idea, like I said, that I would be there 12 months and come home. But after probably about 6-9 months, I thought I don't want to go home in a few months' time. And so we started talking about me potentially staying. And so I said, well, actually, after I'd been there about 18 months, can I stay like indefinitely? And because I didn't want to come back to Australia, and I just felt a real strong connection with that place in Bolivia. And so made the decision to stay indefinitely, and I thought that I would be in the children's home then for several years. I was there for another 18 months, but felt that God was calling me to an end of that season. There was some organisational changes, and a family came from Paraguay to take responsibility for those kids, which is always great to have locals, culture-wise, language-wise, to take on a responsibility like that. And so I thought I've done what I can in these 3 years. I don't know what's next, but so in the end of 2021, I think it was 2021, I moved away from the children's home where I was living into the same town and rented a house. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see what I've got. So I started, because I wasn't sure about exactly what God was calling me into next, I started to look around and question, well, what can I do with my time? I'm definitely called to stay here in this town in Riberalta, and so what can I do? How can I serve? And so I started visiting the women in the local prison. I hope that you can see these photos. Okay, so this is a photo of this Christmas that's just gone. We did a Christmas lunch for all the women, took in some really nice food, some presents for them all. This is their cell block, their cell room, not even a block. And so started to build relationship with these women and get to know their stories. Been visiting them for about a year and a half now. So that has become a main part of how I spend my time there in Riberalta. If we flick over, that's another photo of them the Christmas before. There's now on average about 8 women who are in that room at any one time. Some have left in the last year and some new have come in. But there's been a few consistently there that we've managed to build really strong relationships with both the women and their families outside, which has been a real blessing to those families, also to me, and it has taught me a lot about the Bolivian justice system and what the needs of different families are in my town. Flick to the next one, please, Mark. Here's some other things I started to... My background here in Australia was, for the last 10 to 12 years, was youth work, school chaplaincy, youth ministry. And so I started to connect with school principals and teachers, and I went to the child welfare office to try and start to build a relationship there and see in what areas could I be serving to serve the young people of my town. And so here we have a photo of me with a meeting with the school director. I was able to help coordinate anti-violence, anti-bullying kind of programs in the local schools. Also, you can see a photo there, I started to connect more with the women of my church and of the community. And so I would love to tell you the story of how I ended up renting the house that I now rent, but it's a longer story. One, God really provided, and He knew what was coming. So He provided the exact thing in the exact right place, the exact right house. I didn't know yet what that was going to be used for. So I opened it up at one point to say, well, let's just have the women's meetings here. So we literally had a big room and we just put the couch and a few chairs, and I said, you can have your women's meeting here. So that's a photo of us opening that up and starting women's meetings, ministry that way. So as I started to have more connections in the community and started to really talk to people that were involved with teenagers especially, my heart was really called to work with teenagers. I started to come across and started to see with my own eyes, what some of the real problems were. So if we flick to the next, here's just some other, sorry I forgot I put this slide in there. These are some kids club that I'm doing with the local, some local ladies. They open the house to their neighbourhood kids. So I've been able to help them with some English classes, some kids' church things, so that's been really fun. Click over. So here is the things that I have realised, specifically speaking with young teenagers. So we can see, these are statistics that have come straight from the local hospital, that in 2021, it was 590 girls between the ages of 12 to 18 gave birth to a baby in that local hospital, with the average age of those girls being 14 and a half. And to me that was incredibly shocking. I knew that there were teen mums because I saw them in the streets, and I saw young women, I saw young girls with babies. Sometimes I knew that it was their child, sometimes I thought it was just a larger family and the teenager was looking after their sibling. But then I came across these statistics, and so those numbers are a little bit underestimated because, like I said, we have the communities that are around the place, and so these are the births that actually happened in the hospital. It doesn't count the births that happened outside and they were brought into town. 70% of those pregnancies were reported as the result of abuse. And that as well, it breaks my heart to see that 70% of these 600 girls have actually said, this wasn't my choice. And so, as you can imagine, with the trauma of those experiences, the trauma of a 14-year-old having a child, the youngest in that year was actually 12, I think. She was 12 and had a child. We also have, like the high school dropout rates are extremely high. Literacy rates already in Bolivia, in regional areas, are low, and that's being impacted as well by young girls having children. It's a cycle that has existed for a long time. It's part of the culture. Girls in Bolivia are not shunned, as I know they are in many other countries. So they're not shunned or disowned, which is a good thing, but also often the abuse and that is happening in the home. So the cycle just continues. So these children are being raised in a culture where that's normal, and we see the same thing happening when that generation gets older. So as you can see, the high rates of pregnancy and those children is affecting their education, it's affecting employment rates, it's affecting the poverty. Poverty is already very high in my area. They're living on probably about $15 a day wage as a full-time wage, working 6 days a week if they can find full-time work like that. Very low rate of pay, high poverty rates, and then because they're not finishing high school, that's affecting their opportunities for further study, for other jobs. So that's just feeding that cycle. So out of these things, there are a lot of other issues, but this is what I believe that God just brought my focus to. If we change that over, I feel like God has given me this vision to provide a ministry for these young girls who have experienced this, who have their child, who are pregnant, and so we've called the ministry in English it's Futures of Hope and Achievement, and that really just speaks of what we want to show these girls. We want to bring hope into their lives. We want to show them that they can still achieve in their life. We can break that cycle of poverty, we can break that cycle of abuse, and they can bring up their children in a better environment, a better culture, a better family. So our mission statement is that we exist to empower adolescent mothers to create and embrace a rewarding and hopeful future for themselves and their children in spite of their circumstances or experiences, breaking the cycle of teen pregnancies and poverty among the teen parents in Gibraltar. So like I said, we just really want to come into that point and change these girls' lives. I really believe there's a verse in Proverbs that says, without hope the people perish. And these girls and these families were already living with very little hope. And when this situation has happened to these girls, especially ones who have suffered trauma and abuse, I really feel like they've just lost that little hope that they had left. And it's just become, this is life now, and there is nothing more for me. And so we want to empower them and equip them and bring them that hope that we know only comes from God, only comes from Jesus, that true lasting hope. So in our ministry, if we change over, so we have multiple parts under that banner of Futures. One of our main points is education. We really want to empower these girls to complete at a minimum their high school education, which will open up so many more doors for them in terms of one, being able to read and write. There's so many students who are in high school who can't read and write, which blows my mind. It's just, I don't know how they can continue to study, how they can really look for work if they don't have those basic skills. So we want to help them finish their education, their senior certificate. We'll be providing practical assistance in different ways on a case-by-case basis, depending if they need, say for example, book packs or uniforms or help in that kind of way. We've also got practical training, so this is where our cafe comes into play. This is really exciting. I know that there are different cafes operate in Australia as well, hospitality businesses, and also overseas. So we've opened a cafe called the Garden of Eden, and this is open to the public, coffee shop. We're introducing the Bolivians to nice coffee, cappuccinos, iced coffee, carrot cake, lemon meringue pie, all the nice things. We're a very traditional town. They just love their empanadas and toasted sandwiches. So we're mixing things up a little bit, providing something new, which they're loving, but also that will be a space where the girls can come in and train in all areas of hospitality, from making coffee to serving clients to bookkeeping to working in a team, leadership skills, all of those practical skills that then they can use to either start their own business, look for a job with a reference from us. We can partner with local colleges to provide certificate training. They'll be actually certified in hospitality, which will give them so many more opportunities to provide for their family in a safe space with their training. Also, personal development, I believe that's really, really important. Emotional help, emotional healing. Obviously, like I've said, they've often been through a whole lot of trauma and potentially still living with that. So I want to engage a psychologist and social worker to work with them on that so that they can be free from that trauma. Mentoring as well in a one-on-one relationship with other mothers who have potentially been through that situation. Being a young mum, I'm working with a girl at the moment. She has actually come out of the orphanage where I was. She's now 26. She has 2 young girls. She is a single mum. She had her first baby when she was about 17 and the next one about a year and a half later. And she didn't finish high school, but she's since, with support that she's managed to gain from us as a children's home, has been able to finish her high school certificate. She's nearly finished a teaching degree, but she knows what it's like. She did marry the father of her children, but he left her, which is a common story as well, left her alone with two young girls. So she knows what it's like, but she also knows what it's like to be encouraged and be supported and to achieve something with her life and change the life of her and her daughters. So want to bring more women like that alongside to mentor these young girls. In that mentoring relationship as well will come the discipleship and evangelism. I do believe that's really important. Like I said, we know that that true hope comes from a relationship with God. And so within that mentoring relationship is where all of my volunteers and workers will be Christians, strong Christian women, who can share their experience, who can share who Jesus is, the hope that he has for each of these young girls in their lives, and hopefully bring them to an understanding of being able to have a relationship with God. Bolivia is a very Catholic country. So in terms of evangelising and speaking about our faith, it's quite easy because everyone's very open, to a point where sometimes I can be seeing someone or talking to someone and I think, oh, they're a Christian as well. They speak the words, they say the words, they have the posters, they have the stickers on their car, but actually there's no relationship there, there's no real personal faith and relationship with God. So speaking about things is easy and open and free. I'm not restricted in that area, praise God. But I do believe that that strong change will come through those close relationships where we can share our hope and our faith with each individual, and so God can meet each one where they're at. We also will, here's some photos, yeah, we're doing, as part of that mentoring, I would love to create community, peer-to-peer support and mentoring as well. I also think that that's really important. That we empower these girls to seek solutions with each other. Really am very against creating this dependency relationship. I don't want to be the missionary that just hands out the money or hands out the help. Want to empower them, empower each individual to see what they can achieve, and we'll help them and support them and equip them in everything that they need, so that they can then go out and build their own life and teach their children to do the same and impact other people in their lives and their community. Here's some photos I thought that I would share with you. Mother's Day last year, we did a Mother's Day event as a way to connect with some of the young mothers, other people in the community, and share a little bit about what we're about, what we're doing. So I connected with the local beauty school. Actually, it was a college that has a beauty school department, and they sent a whole class of students. So they came and we invited, there's a photo there in the top corner of one of the young girls and her baby. I think she's about 16 and she has a little 1-year-old. And so we had these beauty students come in and just do pampering. She's still a mother and she still has tough days, I imagine, very tough days sometimes. And so we just wanted to make them feel special. Happy Mother's Day. For some it was their first. So yeah, we did all this pampering, again, Australian food, which they loved, a little high tea, so that was fun. Flick over, I'm looking forward to Mother's Day in May. I am excited to get back and start planning that again. I think that would be really successful to do an annual kind of event and gathering. Here's some photos of the cafe that we've opened, where you can see the red in the photos. That was how I moved into the house. The house that I rent, that's why I say it was God's provision. I was looking for somewhere to live. and he provided a 3-bedroom home that's set back. It's a very, very long, skinny block, and at the front on the street, opening to the street, is a shop. And like I said, I didn't know what at that time I was going to do with a shop front, but I thought, oh, this is great, a great meeting space. But it's a perfect location. We're 2 blocks walking distance from the main plaza in town. We get some great thoroughfare traffic, but then it's not a main busy road. It's perfect. And so the ones with the red painting, that's how it was when I moved in. Since then, we've decided to take away the red. Bolivians really like their bright colours. I'm not such a fan, so did a bit of a paint job, made it a bit fresher and nicer. And I imagine, when I think of the Garden of Eden, I imagine just a beautiful space that people can be relaxed and feel safe and obviously commune with God, but there will be a sense of community. And so I wanted to create that, a space that everyone felt safe. Didn't matter who you are, where you've come from, this is a safe place and you're welcome. And so that's what we called the cafe that. So that cafe is going really well. We opened early September last year. Myself and 2 volunteers got to the point where we can't keep up with demand. So I actually now am paying 3 staff members, and when I head back at the end of the month, we'll be hopefully even increasing that, changing up the roster, training them even more, my workers now, not volunteers, to take that on to the next level, to free me up. I was really focused on that for a time, and now it's time. I think the next slide will say we're going to be moving into the 2nd phase of the ministry. So while the last 6 to 9 months has been a lot of time of, the last 12 months has been really putting down roots in town, getting myself known, which the cafe has also worked really well for, to show the locals that I'm here and I'm here to stay, and this is what I'm about. And so now we're moving into the next part that we've got the cafe going. We've also been using the last 6 months to work on getting us registered as a not-for-profit charity in Bolivia, which will give us a lot more freedom and permission because we'll be a Bolivian organisation rather than an Australian organisation operating in Bolivia, which I think in a very politically unstable country as well is a definite advantage. So praise God, the end has come to all of that paperwork, trying to get that approved, and when I return to Bolivia at the end of the month, I'll be passing through that city to meet with the government lady, and she's going to hand me the piece of paper and say, you are a Bolivian NGO now, which will open up doors for us to go into the school, to go into health clinics, to promote the ministry in different places, which I couldn't have before because I didn't have that authorisation. I was just me, a Western woman saying who I was, and they had my word for it, but now we're fully authorised. So now that we've got the staff members working with the cafe, that's up and running, going really well, and we've now got the papers, I'm free to move on to start directly working with the young women, the young girls that we want to work with, who need our kind of help, and bring them into the program to connect with them, offer them the training, the assistance that we can provide. So these are some of the things that we are hoping to achieve this year. The 2 major things that I would love to, that we will be doing very early this year when I get back, is starting a playgroup and a homework club as a way to a non-threatening environment. I think a homework club, we're going to provide all of the materials that they need to complete their homework, their assignments, to get them to that end point of their senior certificate. One, like I said, we live in a very poor area, and so a reason why they're not submitting their homework is they don't have the resources to do so. And when they don't have the resources, they can't complete their work and they can't graduate. So we will provide all of those things that they need for that. I also have several teachers from a local Christian school who are ready and willing to be available. I can't teach anyone maths in English, let alone Spanish. And so to have those teachers available to help one-on-one, as well as providing the resources, I feel like that will just get these girls through that last year of schooling. A lot of them are in their last 2 years, the ones that I've met so far. A playgroup, going to create a safe space for these young mums to come along, to bring their children, to connect with each other. There are a lot of teenage girls with children, but they're not together. And so each one, I think, is quite isolated in their own lives, in their own places. And so to be able to bring those girls together, to get that support from people who are in the same situation as them. If you've ever attended a playgroup or any kind of group of like-minded people, you know what I mean when we create that community of people who are in the same life stage as ourselves. And so they're the two things that we'll be doing this year. Just check. Yeah, and this year as well, like I said, I think it's really important that we get a psychologist or a social worker, ideally both, God willing, that he'll bring the right people into that role that can work closely with me leading the ministry, and also who understand the culture, who know the language, who are locals, and just have that trust with other people that can go with these girls through their families and start supporting the family as a whole to encourage growth and development within the family and also empowerment of that young girl. So they're the things that we're working on this year. We'll continue building the cafe and train my volunteers and workers more. I would love to also empower them to become stronger in their roles. Flick over. So obviously a lot of people do say, well, how can we partner with you? How can we be involved? And I want to say thank you already. A lot of you, since I've been in Bolivia, it's my first time back in the country since I left. And as you've heard, I didn't leave to start a ministry like this. And so I went with my suitcase and my savings in the bank and thought I was coming back in 12 months. As I said, God had different plans, and so when I decided to stay indefinitely, I knew that I had to do something. I was like, well, God, how am I going to live? I don't have a wage, I don't have support, I don't have anything, but God has brought the right people at the right time, and some of you are among those. And so I want to say thank you for being an answer to prayer, for praying for me, for sending donations and gifts to support me personally and support the building of this ministry. The paperwork alone to get approved as an NGO was extensive and expensive, and I could not have done it without your generosity. So thank you for that. Obviously, financial assistance is a way that we'll continue building the project. Prayer, if you could keep us in your prayers for me, for my volunteers and my workers, and they'll be strengthened and empowered, that God would bring those connections with the girls who are ready to accept our help and assistance, who really want it, who are ready to receive from us what we can provide, that we would be strengthened and empowered to help them in their stage of life where they are now. I will always put out, if you want to travel to the Amazon jungle and come visit me, you are more than welcome. It is a long flight and it's very hot. Not many people take me up on this, but I always say you can come. I also would love to strengthen the bond between Australia and Bolivia, between River Alta and my community here in Australia. And it's something actually that I have thought a lot about when I've been here. It's like, oh, I'm going to have this little koala that I'll put in the cafe, and I, just have little things that I'll be taking back from Australia to just kind of promote that. Everyone knows, I'm clearly not Bolivian, but people are often surprised when I say that I'm from Australia, because we have several Swiss or European sometimes. There's a few Americans in my town now. But Australia is a long way away, not very well known, I guess. And so I really would like to build that connection and bring a little bit of that community. And so if you would like to write a note or a letter of encouragement to either the women who I see in prison or the girls that we'll be working with or my volunteers or workers, it will need to be through email. We don't have a mailing system, which is difficult. But I can translate and get those letters, and I know that they would love to hear that someone outside of their situation, their town, is thinking of them and praying for them and encouraging them. Sometimes we can just get stuck in our little community and we just think that we've forgotten, but to get that encouragement would be lovely if you feel that you could do something like that. If we flick over to the next one, so just coming up to a finish, I've got some little postcards. I've put these on the table in the foyer there. This is just like our mission statement and my contact details. I'd love to stay in contact with you. This is a bit more of a brochure about the actual ministry. Some of the statistics that I've spoken about, what our mission as a ministry is, and how we will achieve that. If you'd like to pick up one of those, to remind you to pray. Like I said, I am so grateful and I trust that God is answering your prayers, answering my prayers, and yeah, it's great to know that I'm not alone. I have a cheer squad here in Boonah in Australia, cheering us on, praying for us. So if you'd like to pick up one of those, on the way out there's also a sheet there that says, would you like to receive my email newsletter? If every month or so, when I have a chance, I send out a newsletter, just a quick A4 update of the kind of main things that we've achieved in that month, or the things that we're working on, a few little prayer points and praise points for that particular time. I'd love to maintain that communication with you. So thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope that's given you a good oversight of where I've come from, my little bit of a journey and what I'm working for towards now. And yeah, again, just thank you so much for your time, for having me today. And I'll hang out in the foyer for a little bit. If you have any other questions or anything like that afterwards, I'd love to